So let's take everything we have learned in the past exercise, how to make a table. Maybe how could we build a table differently out of just pure wood planks. So there are no legs, they're actually sides. So just to repeat what we did, I will create myself again a construction plane there at the height of 29 inches. Okay. Oh, my design should be in inches as well. There, zip. Okay, good. And then this one I call tabletop. And then I will create myself a sketch. Whoops, stop. Let's delete this one. Show tabletop, click sketch. There, I want to be able to select it, go to the top view, rotate, and then zip, 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 zip. Okay, this one I set to horizontal, vertical, perpendicular, perpendicular, perfect, and then dimension, 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 and dimension. So this one, for example, was, let's say, 60, and this should be 30. This one here is D2, so this one D2 divided by 2. This is D3, so D3 divided by 2. And there's our tabletop. Let's say everything we work with in this design is made out of 3-inch material. That's a little bit too much. Maybe, let's say what, for the top we go with 3 and then the sides will be 2. Okay, perfect. Okay, now how could we create actually the planks that go down at the ground? So there are actually now 2 different ways how we could create this. So for example, I go into top view and then I click on hide bodies, show my sketch. I name this one again tabletop. Okay, and I would like to create a new sketch on the ground. You see I have to move my mouse till it looks like I'm snapping to the ground plane. Good. And then I actually project this edge and this edge and this edge into my scene, and actually no, I will do it this way. Delete and delete. I will actually project only this point, and you will see why just in a second. Okay, good. And then this, for example, we can remove, and maybe this we call now wood side planks, or however you want to name it. Okay, so we said like this actually should be 2-inch material thickness. So we go to offset this one 2-inch. Doesn't fill it. So we have to draw a line to it. And that's actually why I have this point. You see these 2 points mark actually the corners of my tabletop. So from this point snapping to this point, click OK. This point snapping to this point, click OK. This all works. Now I can say U and U 2-inch. Okay. And let's test something. Show dimension. Make this one 70. Because I want to see if actually the line I offset will follow it. And dang, it doesn't. Okay, so what do I have to do? Let me show you another constraint. So we go back to wood side planks, double click edit, And I would like that this point always sits or is glued onto this line. So coincident, this point to this line, this point to this line. And then actually when I change this one, you see it goes with it. Pretty awesome. So we set up basically another rule that this blue line is always 2 inches away from this magenta line, which is a projection of this edge down. And then the endpoints of this line are always coincident to the line that is created by snapping to this point and this point, again projected from the top sketch. Again, this is an example for how you actually drive designs. Okay, so next thing, we need another line. For example, let's say offset this one. See, if I offset this one, it is too wide or too long. It goes over there. It's not really what I want. So what I will do is I click on here. And I can make use of the grid. So maybe I draw it like this, a little bit longer. Let's say it doesn't perfectly snap on the grid there. And let's see, how does this line look? You see, it is actually coincident to this blue line. That is good. There is also an 90-degree constraint. And what hangs over here right now, I actually can cut off. I don't necessarily have to. I can actually simply keep it that way. So I could, for example, now take this one. You see this is actually horizontal. I can move it. I can move it back, zip and back, zip, and these endpoints actually sit on each other. Other way, for example, could have been I would, for example, go to sketch, trim, and simply cut it away. And same way. Okay, so now I have to mirror this over. For that, again, I need something to the midpoint, escape, click the line, construction, click, mirror this line, mirror along there. Okay, perfect. And stop sketch. No, hold on. We wanted to dimension this. So, because this should be also 2 inches. Actually, what's this one? This is actually D8. So we say equal D8. We simply type the value in, and then you see the dimension D9 gets the value of dimension D8. Enter, finished. Let's double check if this is true. This line is 2 inches long. Perfect. Okay, so we made everything actually 29 inches tall. So now we could go to create, extrude this line and this line, 29 inches, separate object. Okay, and then I do this one more time. So right mouse button click gives you this dial, and you just can click on repeat. I have to see my wood planks there. 29 inches, not join, new body. Okay. And there we are. Now let's take a look at our top plate. Hide all the sketches. And there you see now how, for example, we created this system. So very easy, not too complicated. Okay, so let's say we need a shelf. So for the shelf we need a horizontal plate somewhere in between. And we would like to be able to adjust, for example, the plate to go up and down. But before we do this, let's do some checks with our dimensions to see what happens when we make this one 70. Gets wider, 50 gets more narrow. What happens here? 20, 40. Perfect. You see, I can easily change the proportions of my design based on the dimensions. And because I build also the different elements in a very specific sequence, so they rely and are connected to each other, I do not have to adjust, for example, the wall thickness for these planks. I simply adjust the maximum width and depth, and that's all I have to do. Perfect. That's good. However, let's see what happens actually when we set this one to 35. There we have an issue. You see, this actually all goes a little bit higher. So let's go to edit this feature, and you see there is something called extend distance. So let's see what happens when we say 2. 2 all or all, and then actually it goes through it. Okay, so in that case, let's take a look at what we could do. So this is actually, what did we say, 35. There it is. Right click, edit feature, distance. So actually curious. D1 is actually our first dimension for the construction plane. You see the dimension here for the offset for this construction plane is actually D1, so dimension 1. So this way I could simply say edit, 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 U, also D1, D1, okay, and that's the way how you could see the number for it. You hold your mouse over it and then you see it reads it out, D1. Okay, so if I change this one now to 29, back down, you see everything is being adjusted. Perfect. So that is actually very good. Now we know we can adjust the width, the height, and the depth, and everything updates. And now we can, at this point, create another plane. Origin onto from the ground plane up at whatever height. Let's say 17, maybe 20 there. Okay. This one, for example, we call shelf, and onto the shelf I create a sketch. You see I had the shelf actually selected and then it created the sketch right on it. Okay, so this will be shelf. Okay, I guess right now doesn't like us to name it. I have to press escape, shelf, and I'll go back to drawing, go into a top view. So I would like to have, let's say, a shelf that's a little bit more inserted there, maybe. So the problem is, for example, if we make this really deep, can you really reach everything? And maybe we only need a shelf, for example, that from the top we can reach in, but from a side maybe somewhere there is a back plate. So in this case, actually, this approach is not really that useful. And then this feature I can delete. And I also can delete this construction plane. It's not really useful actually. So what I will do instead is actually go to the side view, and then from the side create a sketch. And for example, I will turn off my bodies right now because I do not want to draw on my body. I want to draw actually on this plane, and just maybe make this line there, there, and there, and there. Then, for example, quickly I dimension this, so inch, yeah, let's keep it at an inch, and there, okay. And then maybe a stopper in the back, inch, and for example, maximum height, so not just this edge, but this edge to this edge, okay. And now, how do I know the distance? So for example, this edge to this edge of my tabletop drawing, as you can see, have maybe, so the whole piece maybe goes in 2 inches. Perfect. See that? Awesome. So what about the height? Now, I can either say this lower edge to the ground plane, or maybe this edge to the top edge height. That's maybe actually what I will do. So this to this, let's drag this one out, and let's say maybe 10 inches. You see then it moves it actually up. Or I could also delete this one and say, so the bottom edge to the ground point, so for example, should be at 20 inches. So there are different ways. You have to decide which way you want to work. And let's hide those and hide this one. Escape. I thought I had this one renamed. So this is like shelf. Okay, stop sketch. Now we have actually this line, those 2 surfaces, and we can extrude it out. So you, for example, add a certain distance. You saw I wasn't able to see my extrusion because my body actually was hidden, and you also get a warning down here. So turn this one on, and maybe till there. So here now I have to do a little bit of math now. So hold on 1 second. What's the maximum distance here? So you to you currently is 56. Okay, hold on. Way too complicated. This is actually 2 inches. Okay. Tabletop is currently 60 inches. So what we have to do, and this is dimension 2. So this one should be extruded dimension 2 minus 4 inches for each wall thickness. Okay. So, by the way, we also want to go symmetrically, both sides. So this is actually now D, D2 divided by 2, because it's basically 30 one direction and 30 the other direction. So this maximum has to be divided by 2 minus 4. inches, so that's too much, -2. Okay, that makes sense because it is actually 60 minus or divided by 2 is 30. So then from here to the outer edge is 30 and then -2, and then which will then result into 28. And then this we also apply to the other side. And new body. Okay, perfect. Now here's a funny thing. What is this actually? This is D22. So we could go and say create extrude this D22, new object, both sides, done. Okay, so let's see if our theory worked out. So if we change this one to 80, perfect. 60. Okay, so this is, for example, a very, very simple boxy look for maybe a table with some with a shelf inside and solid sides and front, a thicker tabletop, and everything is set up in a way so that we can easily adjust some dimensions, and the whole design perfectly adjusts. So also here, to finish actually this design, maybe we should do a little bit with the edge treatment. So for example, actually what I would like to focus on is that, for example, these edges are rounder. Now, with, for example, the wooden table we did before, you want to really round these edges nicely, but here when we have veneer or something over it, it's not as possible to, for example, with a miter round it or so, because then you would just remove the veneer we glued onto the top, specifically in case the core is actually a particle board or something like this. So if we have like small gaps in between, they have to be really very, very tiny. So for example, let's take off the tabletop. Let's take those two off. Let's go to the fillet, and then I select everything besides actually this corner and this corner. I would like to do something different with it. And all this I would like to break slightly. So, however, because I said I want to do something with these two corners, I realized I have to do it this way first. So this corner and this corner. You see, actually I can round corners of multiple objects, and maybe 0.5. Ooh, 0.5. With 1. Yeah, let's go with 1. Okay, good. So let's hide the top and let's take a look. And there we see what we have. Yeah, that's kind of like what I was a little bit more looking for. So for example, that if you come from the front, this is a little bit rounded, looks nicer because these edges are very prone, for example, to chip off because somebody banged something against it. And then actually, now we can go ahead and go select the fillet command, really select everything that's left, and maybe say 0.01. So it will be really, really tiny, so that you just can see that there is a break and two different material parts that are joined. Okay, that's it.